All right, hello everybody. I want to show you guys a project that I've been working on for like the last half of a year. And this is going to be a very kind of informal introduction to this project. But basically what I have done, what we are looking at here is the Rumble Racing PS2 map, True Grits. This is one of the first tracks that you can race on when you open the game, that's unlocked by default. And this is probably the first time that people have seen this map in such a perspective ever. Certainly not since certainly since the developers created this map. They probably created this map with a similar view, but usually when you play the game, you're confined to a view like this, where you're in the car and you can only see, what the camera sees from the car's perspective. But this is the first time that we can actually break away from that perspective and see the entire world through this new lens. So to talk a little bit about this project, right now you'll see that I'm actually on Noclip.website. So I've created a submission for Noclip. That's why it says localhost up here. It's because I'm running this locally. This is my code that I wrote that I'm running locally. That's not yet on Noclip. So you guys are seeing this before it will ever be live on Noclip if they choose to accept it. So this is my submission for Rumble Racing. So what I want to do today is talk a little bit about, first of all, I want to show you guys these maps. I want to be the first person to kind of walk through these maps with you guys from this kind of new perspective. And then I want to talk about how the game how did I reverse engineer this game, and how, I won't get too much into technical details, but there's some technical details that are kind of interesting. But mostly I just want to kind of explore these maps and show off, this renderer that I built for Noclip. And hopefully one day you guys will be able to check it out on your own, and just be able to really enjoy these maps and kind of explore them on your own. So just as a reminder, Rumble Racing has 15 tracks, and internally they're all named kind of different things. They are named basically after the style of map that it is. So I'm on True Grits right now. Everyone knows that True Grits is this kind of southern map, so it makes sense that the internal name, the grouping, is Southern Exposure. So if I go to Over Easy, for example, it's actually a lot of the same map is recycled. You see we have the same barn, the same kind of trains here, the same city, except instead of going off in this direction, it goes around the outside. And in True Grits, there is no, that outside portion over here is not, not loaded in, but rather they have this highway over here. So it's kind of like the developers reused the same general map and landscape, and that's how they're grouped here. So the same thing is kind of true with like Sunburn and Surf and Turf. These are both like kind of beach style, beach style resort type of maps, except this one goes through the city, but at the same time, yeah, it's still like a beach. So, and Badlands, for example, So Refined and Cold Cuts, it's like this kind of Western tumbleweed style map. And the same thing is true with Cold Cuts. Same kind of texture, same kind of vibe, to use that overused word. And then we've got joke tracks, which kind of don't fall into like a common category. Outer Limits, I think, was reused from the first NASCAR Rumble game. But Circus Minimus is, a Roman kind of Colosseum. Mountain Air, for example, is kind of self-explanatory. You've got your mountains, outdoor style scenes, and Metropolis Touch and Go. Yeah, Metropolis city style levels, cargo. So that's basically how they're grouped, and we're going to go through each map in a lot more detail here. But let's start with True Grits here. And let's just take a look. So pretty much people's first experience with rumble racing is going to be spawning in True Grits and spawning right here, going down this road, seeing power-ups for the first time, going through this shortcut for the first time, and racing around the track. So I kind of just want to point out some cool things about each track, and we'll keep this a little bit short. So the first kind of interesting thing about this track here is there's just a lot of fun kind of things that the developers put in that you just don't notice, because you're just, again, you're racing, you're coming through this track going really fast. There's a lot of detail in the environment that you just don't really take the time to appreciate. For example, this sign here, Mother Clucker's Truck Stop, is just a funny, obviously play on words, cute detail. One funny thing that you'll notice here is that there are porta potties over here. And the way, when I actually textured the sign, the edges of the sign are just that same porta potty texture, but just stretched. Why they did this, I don't know. Whether it was an oversight or intentional, like to kind of make it match this white and blue pole here with the same white and blue style edge. Like I said, when you're going past it, you don't even notice it, but it is just a porta potty texture stretched on the edge there. So you see something like that. When I was developing the renderer, I was thinking, okay, certainly they didn't actually like texture a porta potty on the sign. Like, I must have been reading the textures wrong or rendering it wrong. But no, that's actually how it is in the game. And there are plenty of places like that that I'm going to show you throughout this video that are just kind of fun. One thing I'd also like to mention here is that, I guess let's finish looking through True Grits, and then I'll get into some more technical details. So yeah, we got like a little truck stop here. Kind of nothing out of the ordinary, your porta potty. So we head on down the road. You kind of, the cool thing about this is that, you're no longer constrained. Like, if I want to see what's out here, I can just come out here and I can see that it just goes off into the distance and there's nothing to be seen. Same thing over here. There's like this little house over here in this barn, and I can actually come over here and see that I can come check it out, and there's really not much going on, kind of vacant and empty and half rendered, just so it can be seen from this perspective. So coming down the road here, we notice we've got this beautiful kind of sky dome here with these clouds. The way that they've designed this map is really, really pretty. So we come along here, we've got our tractor, railroad crossing signs, standard stuff, these animated kind of directional arrows. That leads us over here to this barn area. Now, one funny thing that I discovered when I was creating this renderer is that there are actually just chickens, like static chickens on the roof of this barn. And if you go into the game, you'll see that this is also true, but again, because you're going so fast in the game and you're just going through here, you never even notice it. But there are actually chicken models just kind of stuck on the roof here. One other cool thing to kind of point out is that if you've stopped in the game, you've noticed that there's kind of these cows out in the field here, and the way that works is that they're just like a flat 2D plane with a texture, kind of a transparent texture kind of plastered onto this 2D pane, and it actually doesn't look that bad from the perspective of driving past. It almost looks like there's just cows there, and without having to go through the complexity of making a 3D model for the cows. And yeah, so let's keep going here. We come along here, and again, you find these weird oddities. Like in the game, there is this fence that's like rendered in 3 different ways. One part is gray. There's like this blue part. There's this flat, 2D version of the fence that's textured, whereas these are like 3D models of fences. Like, I don't know who was in charge of the fence here, but they really kind of took a lot of random liberty in how they designed this fence, and I don't quite understand why it is the way it is, but it's interesting. Here we've got the sign again with the stretched porta potty textures. If I can get it slowed down here, we've got the stretched porta potty textures on these signs. Three-fingered Jack's Meats. That's another really kind of, fun detail to look at these signs that, you normally just drive right past and never get the chance to appreciate. So heading onwards, we see we've got these train tracks that we can go out here and kind of just check all this stuff out that we can normally never see. We've got a copy of that barn we saw earlier with some silos. Let's head on down over here to the main kind of city area. This place is kind of cool. Again, we can come out of bounds and see some houses that we don't normally see on this map. Or we can, check out some of these signs, like this movie theater, this kind of Mel's used chicken parts. One kind of funny thing that I want to talk about this chicken part sign is that you'll notice that it's yellow, red, and blue. There's these, kind of basic colors, yellow and blue, on the sign. When they designed the 3D model for the airplane over here, where it spawns in, you'll notice that the airplane is also yellow and blue. Like, it has a blue stripe and a yellow kind of body. They're actually sampling, when they created this model, the texture that's applied is actually being sampled from, those colors are being sampled from this used chicken part sign. So I thought it was kind of funny that basically all of the UVs are just sampling, for that plane are sampling like this yellow texture here, or that blue texture for the stripe. So I thought it was kind of creative that they reused, this chicken part sign to color the plane. I thought that was kind of an interesting detail. Little Monty's dress shop. There's all kinds of fun little signs here. Roadkill Pizza. All kinds of stuff to explore. I won't go into too much detail here, but then we come around and we go over, and yeah, so that's pretty much True Grits, the interesting parts of True Grits. Of course we can fly under. We see like this kind of random cube here. This cube kind of appears in all the levels. One thing I want to show also that will be in this renderer. This kind of renderer on Noclip is a lot sloppier than the one that's going to be in the final website, if they accept it, because I have a lot of kind of debug stuff here. For example, I can click this and we can actually view the different paths that the computer's AI takes when it navigates these worlds. So that's kind of a cool feature of this, is we can kind of also check out not only like the paths, but we can check out the drivable polygons and like the vertices that make up that data, the fences that keep you, constrained to the track. But we can kind of see when we enable this.
Isparky I says, iViewers stream boo. Com.
Okay, sorry about that. That's somebody that I need to ban from Twitch chat. That is just making AI comments in my Twitch chat. Anyway, I'll kind of ignore that for now. But yeah, anyway, we can see very clearly when we enable these different debug features, we can see kind of very clearly where you're allowed to drive at and how the game interprets various paths that it can take, which is kind of cool. Obviously not perfect, because you can clearly drive under here, but it's marked as red as if it has collision, but that's not totally accurate, but it's just for the visuals of this video mostly. We can also click the duster and we can see kind of we can see kind of the route that the crop duster takes. We can see that it spawns in over this point right here, and it will kind of fly along this route and then just do some loops over this farm area. Why it has this, I have no idea. Oh, this is for the chickens probably, actually. So I guess the crop duster and the chickens share like a similar kind of path. But anyway, yeah, the crop duster flies along here. It will eventually come along this way, fly over here, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of cool to look at these kind of networked paths, but I don't think we're going to do that too much. One other thing about the technical implementation of this is that, let me turn off paths here, and we'll kind of describe what makes up a rumble racing track here. So the first thing to notice is that we have this thing called track panorama. Now if I disable that, or let's say I disable everything else, we can kind of see what a panorama is. It's basically, you know, it's everything that's not directly related to the track geometry. So it's kind of like the supporting visuals outside of the track itself. So like we see like on the edges of the map, we've got these mountains, these trees, the skybox with the clouds. All of this is basically going to be the track panorama. So if I disable that and just enable the track, it's very clear to see kind of how much supporting work, you know, the panorama is doing to like building the scene. So if we disable the panorama, we're left with just kind of the pure track related model. So there is also a concept of actors. So the actors are basically the individual kind of instanced things. If we disable actors, we notice that most of the map geometry here is going to be static and never move. Like this sign never moves, these trucks never move. No matter what you do to it in the game, you know, these buildings outside of the map are never moving. So this geometry doesn't have to be dynamic at all. But the idea of actors is that we have these things that are placed in the world that are, you know, interactive in some sense. Like we've got these barrels that we can hit, or we've got stop signs that we can hit, and these tires we can hit, or these gas tanks we can hit, and they cause an explosion. Just basically anything that is a 3D model that's kind of repeated also could be an actor. For example, like all these light poles are kind of instanced actors. Like maybe some of these you can hit and knock over, maybe some of them you can't, I don't know. But actors are basically things that are kind of smaller interactive 3D models that are placed around the world. So like you'll notice these kind of, all of these are actors here, like the barn doors we can run into, all the signs. So that's kind of how the game kind of chunks up these kind of concepts. Also, we have power-ups, which I put, technically all power-ups are actors, so really they should fall under the category of actors, but I put them in a separate setting here in Noclip, just because maybe you want to just not see the power-ups, but you want to see everything else. But in theory, they are actors. Okay, so that was a lot to take in. Let's kind of go to the next map, over easy. Whoops, over easy. If I can click it. Okay, there we go, over easy. So not too much to go into here, because this map is really similar to the previous map, True Grits. A lot of the geometry is simple. Oh, one other thing I want to show is kind of, there's this concept of vertex coloring. So like if I disable vertex coloring, you'll notice that like a lot of the lighting and kind of color of the scene goes away. Or rather, let's say I disable textures, you can kind of see what vertex lighting is doing. Basically, there's, if I enable wireframe, maybe you can see it, maybe you can't, but everything is made up of triangles. So vertex coloring kind of takes every point of the triangle and says, okay, at this point in the triangle it's green, at this point it's green but with like a 50% transparency. So the PS2 will interpolate the color of the entire triangle based on the color of its 3 points. So when we turn off texturing, you can kind of see how much work that vertex coloring is doing. Like in the sky, that vertex coloring is what's giving this kind of pink purple hue to everything in the clouds. And we can see that like without vertex coloring here, you don't have this green kind of patch of grass in the dirt here. So vertex coloring does a lot of work as far as lighting and shading is concerned. So for example, if I turn off vertex lighting, we can just see how flat this kind of wall is, but when we add vertex colors, you really start to see kind of how much lighting is done by the vertex coloring on the PlayStation 2. So it's kind of a really cool way to see like how they use these colors to kind of paint a certain hue, like overall vibe to a scene, right? Like they're kind of painting everything like this kind of purplish sunset, but at the same time kind of bright color in the lit areas. So I don't know, it's a very interesting thing to explore. So anyway, back to this map. We are looking at Over Easy right now. So the main difference with Over Easy again is that, well, there's this giant blue kind of, I don't know what, triangle polygon under the map, which is kind of curious. But yeah, the main thing with Over Easy is that we just go along this detour outside of the city, and you get to this point where you jump over this ravine, and the cool thing about this again is that now we can just explore everything. But there's honestly nothing too interesting about this area. And again, we come back to the city. This time it wraps us around a different route, but it's the same fundamental city. I got the Easter egg Y level kind of wrong. That's something I'll need to fix. But we come back through here, and then we're just back at that farm again. So it cut out basically everything that we had over here in True Grids. Nothing too particularly interesting about this map that stands out to me. Okay, this is taking a lot longer than I thought it would, but it's worth looking at all this. Let's go on to my favorite map, I think, from Rumble Racing, or one of the ones that is my favorites. I would probably say True Grits and Cargo are my favorites because I just have fond memories of these maps, probably because they're the first two maps that you can play where you're not having to unlock them. Like they're unlocked by default, so you end up playing them quite often. And I played these maps on split screen with an old friend that I used to have as a kid growing up. So I have lots of fond memories of this map in particular. So let's go ahead and start at the start line over here. So I don't know, like there is this kind of interesting, kind of factory thing here at the start of the map. It's kind of this giant factory. You can, of course, explore all these signs, come through here. There's just a lot of stuff that you just don't notice when you're driving right past it. Like, for example, I thought I messed up something here when I saw the sign kind of sticking out like this and not angled correctly, but actually that's how it is in the game. You can just come out here and just explore. It's just kind of really cool to see like some of the different perspectives here. So this map, there's not too much going on out of the ordinary with this map. You know, we get to this kind of cool area that has these cranes and water, and again, we can kind of see how much work, especially in a map like this, we can kind of see how much work vertex coloring is doing here. Oops, let's look at vertex colors. By taking off the textures, we can kind of see, look at how much color is being applied to the scene and kind of how they're using it. They're using it to create this kind of like rusted, you know, look on these ramps. Whereas if we turn off vertex colors, like they're not rusty at all, but when we turn them on, it kind of creates this kind of rusted lighting, which is kind of really, really interesting to look at. And look at how different the scene looks without vertex colors. Like it looks really flat, like there's this giant, I don't know what this shape is by the submarine, but when you turn on vertex colors, it has full transparency, so you don't see it. But anyway, kind of interesting. There's our friendly cube out here in the middle of the map. You know, you can come through here, kind of explore some of these signs. We come along here, and this is kind of the dock area. You can kind of see all the boats and cranes out here. Again, maybe I won't go into too much detail about as we kind of fly through these maps, but I just want to kind of just show this in a different perspective than what you're used to seeing at with the game, what the game shows you. Like we can actually just come out here and just explore these kind of out of bounds areas and get a sense for how the map ties together. Like, oh, I can actually come up here and check out what's on this highway. So wrapping it around here, one interesting thing is that there's actual light effects on this highway, but if you look back, there's no light effects. So they just didn't light that area of the map. But yeah, you could fly all the way out here, see what's going on. Like the road is just kind of broken here. Kind of cool. The fact that there's, you know, such detail all the way out here that you just never ever see. It's kind of interesting. Flying through here, one kind of fun thing that I found on this map is that if you come to this spot in the game, in the real game, and you look really closely, if you look straight ahead here, there's actually a part of this building clipping into the highway here. So like, you know, we have this building down here, it clips into the highway, and you can actually see this kind of map error from the game. If you come here, you'll see this little black sliver. So that's kind of a fun detail. Coming down here, yeah, we're just closing the loop here, and you know, of course, you can come up over here and check this area out. Just very, very cool to be able to see the maps like this. This takes me to my next map, which is probably, this wasn't really one of my favorite ones when I was playing the game, but as far as viewing the maps, like this is probably the map that's most rich with detail and the most fun to explore in Noclip. The reason for that is because, well, it's a huge map, and it's very interesting. It's this airport kind of map, and one of the things that I always wanted to do when I was a kid, and even when I was looking at this game and thinking about reverse engineering the maps, it's like I would drive up to this airport and I would be like, man, I really want to see, like, you can read stuff inside there. I really want to like see, like, this airport is so detailed. Like there's plans, there's chairs, there's like an upper part with a restaurant. You know, there's like these kind of rooms in the back there. And when you drive around here, you can actually, you know, reach this part in the game. But like, again, behind this glass is like this airport, you know, model that you just can't access. Or for example, there's this kind of walk over here that you can't access in the game, But now I can just come in here and I can check it out. So it's really cool. So I want to just kind of show off some of the stuff in the airport here. So we got, airport line, first class, some kind of stuff that's not very legible. Honestly, most of the stuff isn't legible. Airport line, air company. I mean, it's very generic, but it's kind of cool to be able to come back here and see men phones. Oh, like men's restroom, and the phones are apparently back here, but kind of ends there. So even though it's kind of just copied and pasted here, how cool is it that we can come in here and like look at these textures up close, and like just really appreciate some of this stuff. Like there's vending machines here that you probably wouldn't even really see. I mean, you can kind of see them, but now you can actually just come in and look at these like Pepsi and whatever that is, soda vending machines, and just really, I don't know, check out these areas that you just aren't meant to see them this way. So that's kind of the cool part about the airport here. There is this kind of transparent walkway, I guess, that would take you to a parking garage, maybe, in a real airport. I actually haven't checked out this little section really at all. So I wonder if there's anything interesting in here. I don't think so. Okay, so kind of cool. So heading on, we come out here. Of course, you can explore all these hangars, or explore up here where we've got these plane models kind of sitting above the track, in their hangars. But when you're on the course, you can only see certain parts of them. Here's kind of another really, really cool area here, is that when you in the game you drive through here, but you'll notice on your right we've got this kind of actual like landing strip here with this kind of red box geometry. I don't know what's going on here, but clearly a mistake from the developers that you can actually see in game. If you just look out to the right, you'll see that red patch. But this is kind of a really cool thing to be able to just come out here and explore this runway. Again, we can see how much the vertex colors kind of transform the scene here, by applying these kind of hues to what would otherwise be a pretty flat texture. So yeah, we've got you can of course come up now. You can come up and check out this air traffic control tower, the lights on it. Just very, very cool to be able to just come and just fly around the map like this. And we see we've got another kind of random red texture out here. But flying back around. Oh, one other cool thing is that one thing that I noticed is that this plane has rotors here, and here's one just kind of chilling outside of the turbine is just chilling outside of the map. There's just a 3D model out there. But yeah, we can explore this area here, the snack shop. One kind of fun detail that I noticed is that in the game there's this black box here. It's actually a soda machine. It's just stretched. Why did they do this? I have no idea. I genuinely don't understand why there's a stretched soda machine here when they could have just, modeled a wall there. I don't know why they did that. I really don't understand it. One other thing we can notice is the EA Sports helicopters that fly around. I don't know why the rotor's like splitting the helicopter in half. That may be my mistake, or that may be how it is in the game before like it adjusts something at runtime. But you can notice like, hey, there's a little pilot here in the helicopter. So kind of a fun detail. Coming back along the track here, again, we can come out of bounds and see all these planes. Coming back under here, heading along the track, we get to this parking garage. We can see this in a new angle. We can come up to these levels of the parking garage that are just not accessible in a normal game and kind of look at some of the weird textures there. So again, fully explorable. Just really, really cool to see this. I don't know, I just love the fact that I can just look at this game in a totally free manner. You know, I can just come up here and just check out what's going on with these bridges. And again, we're kind of looping back around. Like I can just come check out what's on this highway up here. It kind of goes over and cuts off. So that's pretty much the gist of, what is the name of this track again? Touch and Go. But yeah, really cool airport. A lot to see, a lot to check out here. One of my favorite maps to check out. These maps I'm not going to spend too much time on because, quite frankly, they're not that interesting to me. These Falls Down and Passing Through. I think Falls Down is one of the kind of least interesting maps here. But like, let's just get a shot of this from, you know, a really zoomed out perspective, so we can kind of just really appreciate the scale of this map. One kind of cool thing about this map is like, you're obviously not supposed to see these tunnels from this perspective, but it looks kind of funny just seeing these two tubes and you know, connecting the map like this. Coming back over here, we've got this kind of bridge and this shadow here. Again, we can just check all of this out, although it's not particularly too interesting. Again, some two tube tunnels connecting the parts of the map, and we're kind of back at almost the starting area. I think we started in like someplace around here. But here's the Easter egg spot. For example, if you were to take a right here, come off the edge, you could see you hit this. If you come off the waterfall and hit this rock here, you would collect the Easter egg. But yeah, there's nothing really too interesting about this map in particular. Same thing with Passing Through. Passing Through is a little bit more interesting than Falls Down, but again, let's check it out from the sky. Kind of boring, but there's two kind of areas of interest here. The first area of interest is right before this waterfall. Like, this waterfall has a shortcut here, which we can see. But right before this waterfall, you'll notice that we have like some camp, I can't read it, bar camp between or camp Batfin, I don't know. But one thing I noticed when I was creating this renderer and extracting these textures is that in these houses here, there's actually someone in the window watching out of the cabin window here. It's a little creepy, especially because you can't really make out who it is. Is it a developer? Who is this? Like, who is this person? But they appear in all of the things. So everyone that's ever raced on Rumble Racing has this guy kind of watching over you as you come around this corner. I thought it was a little creepy. One of the next interesting things, of course, to check out with this map is these, porta potties that actually say Potty Man, which is kind of funny. But again, in the game, you just kind of slam into them. You don't really appreciate the kind of art that goes into it. Coming along here, nothing. Again, there's really not much that's really interesting with these maps. There's nothing kind of hiding that you wouldn't see. You wouldn't see just in a normal game. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this map. Again, nothing too out of the ordinary. Outer Limits. There are some secrets in this map. Apparently a pterodactyl flies around. I don't implement that in this renderer, but apparently it's a thing. So this map was actually, to my surprise, copied over from the game that preceded this, NASCAR Rumble. This map was built for PS1, so it's a lot more simple, and that's kind of why you don't get a really far view it's kind of more tight curves. I guess because it was built with like, weaker hardware in mind. But there are kind of two interesting things about this this map that I kind of want to point out that I don't think anyone has ever found before. The first is that in one of these shortcuts here, which I'll find eventually, there's these shortcuts that kind of span the edge of the map, and in one of them there's this kind of like secret. Okay, here we've gotten to this. So if you come to this point in the map, you'll see, and you take the shortcut, you'll see this kind of skull character. I mean, that's not really a secret. But what is a secret is if you come to this kind of ledge here, just beyond this kind of overhang, and you turn to the right, there's this Cheshire Cat from, I think, a game that I can't remember the name of it, but it was a similar game. You'll see a lot of references to this cat in Rumble Racing, because I think EA was creating some kind of game, Alice in Wonderland game or whatever. They were also creating some game. But anyway, this Cheshire Cat Easter egg is here in the game. Like, how many people have driven through this and just never noticed this? I think I'm probably one of the first people to ever commentate on this on the internet, because I've tried to find references to see who has like pointed this out before, and I couldn't find a video where someone has pointed out these Easter eggs. But this does exist, and you can check it out for yourself in the game. So I thought that was kind of a cool, this is kind of one of the only interesting things about this map that they kind of stuck in there. There's, of course, this entering Kirk Rock National Monument. Who Kirk is, I don't know, but this is his rock. That is Outer Limits, Circus Minimus. Not much to talk about here at all. The sky is very pretty. Like, it's this beautiful kind of, like, if I turn off textures, we can kind of appreciate how kind of pretty they've colored the scene. Like this purple, like one side of the track has this kind of purple pinkish hue, and then the other side has this kind of red hue. I don't know, it's really a pretty kind of map to look at. Of course, I'm not animating the water textures, and like these dolphins are supposed to be like metallic in the actual game, so some of the stuff in the middle here I'm not rendering quite correctly. But there's really not too much to check out here. I mean, I guess there's like this, which you can't normally really see. You can come up here, see some of these textures. But yeah, not too much that's remarkable about this map at all. I don't think I'm going to spend much time here, because I didn't really like this map in the game when I played the game. So let's go on to Wild Kingdom. One thing to notice about this map is that in the game there are stars and like the moon in the background that I am not rendering currently, but you can see kind of like these clock things from the Stuntmaster game mode where you hit the clock and you would gain more time. But yeah, this is kind of a cool map. You can kind of see futuristic city with like this train track kind of cutting through the middle of it. Kind of interesting. The track itself is kind of unremarkable. Nothing really interesting to see on the track itself. But I'm trying to think if there's anything kind of worth checking out outside of the map here. I don't really think so. Yeah, I don't know. Not that interesting of a map. Not one of my favorites either. The Gauntlet. This wasn't a map that I enjoyed when I played the game either, but kind of interesting map. Again, there's some things that I'm just not rendering. I think there's the particles that shoot up over these pits or something, but I'm not rendering particles yet. So this map, I don't know, nothing too I don't know, maybe I'm just losing my energy to talk about these maps, but it's nothing really inspiring here. Some of these objects, I don't have their Y level set correctly. Either that's my mistake or like the game engine, like when the map loads, it snaps them to this geometry. I don't know whether it's me or the game, but these things should rotate as well, and I think there's particles that appear over these in the game. But again, nothing too crazy going on in this map. Nothing particularly interesting. Let's go to Flip Out. This is one of my favorite maps in the game. Again, one of those fun early game levels that you can kind of take these tubes, and there's an Easter egg here behind the tubes. And just a really cool level, but looking at it like this is just so different. Like looking at it, being able to fly around is just really cool to see. Oh yeah, like again, we got these kind of tubes connecting the map, and like this weird texture that you just never see, this radial kind of, I don't know how you describe this texture, but like what an interesting texture, and we just never see it. Like the camera never sees this. But anyway, coming through here, I don't know if I'm going the right way or not. I think I'm supposed to be going this way. But yeah, these should be emitting particles. Again, if we turn off vertex colors, you can kind of see like there's some geometry. I think this kind of plane here is supposed to be the particle emitter. So if I was rendering particles, you'd probably see them shooting out of these pipes. But just going along here, just kind of a fun map to check out. When you get to this area, and you can come up here and explore, these things. I don't know what exactly this is, but yeah, kind of cool. Again, we can see kind of how much the vertex colors are really influencing the lighting on this scene. Coloring these buildings green, and giving that green shade to these pipes. Like you can really see how much work the vertex coloring does. If we were to just turn that off, I mean, look, this is totally different, and you can't even see like the depth to it. But when you turn the vertex colors on, it just makes so much difference. Makes it really pretty. Okay, that's about it for Flip Out. Let's do Cold Cuts. This is one of the least interesting maps out of all of them, in my opinion. Just because it's so boring. Like there's really nothing going on here aesthetically. It's really just desert, rocks, and like patches of coal, and like these, like I don't know what they are, but like mine carts with coal in them, and just kind of, it's just very boring. Like, oh, Easter egg. It's very, very boring level. Like I guess the coolest thing is, oh, this isn't a shortcut, but this is like kind of a fun thing you can see, because normally you can't see what's going on up there, but now we can see what's going on. I guess kind of the coolest thing to check out in this map is like the shortcuts, and to see how they kind of snake around the map. But really, I don't know if I haven't spent much time in these maps kind of checking them out, but like this map in particular is just extremely boring. I mean, this is kind of cool. That textured barrel, these green barrels, and this train cart you would just never see. But there's just not much going on here. Like compared to a map like Touch and Go, like this is just extremely boring. I mean, I guess it's cool to be able to see like, oh, what's back there. Well, you can kind of get that answer now, but like, just yeah, not an interesting map at all. And then like we're back to the beginning. So I don't know. Not a fan of this one either. So Refined, on the other hand, is a lot more cool, a lot more interesting stuff going on in this map. First of all, modeled after kind of an oil refinery, so we do have kind of the same snaking desert stuff going on here, but we've got this oil refinery, and all these this was a shortcut where you get to there by not, going off the road, coming down here under the bridge. You've got all these signs you can read. It's a lot of cool little industrial stuff here. But if we come out here, we can find this kind of starting area. This is kind of a fun place to explore. So I don't have stuff animating right now. I think like this is supposed to be rotating around in a circle, and like these kind of oil rigs go bob up and down in the game, but we don't have those animations yet. But we can check out some of these buildings, like this grocery store. And if we come into this garage, we can actually see like it's a fully textured garage. You have to imagine like this is probably like one of the developers' garages or something, and to think that, I'm making an assumption there, but maybe it is. But how cool is it? Like if you just went out and took a picture of your garage and put it in the game, and now it's preserved, on the internet forever. It's history, video game history. A picture of your garage or something, or a picture of your local grocery store. I just think that's so cool. And we get some, Billy Bob's Big Rigs or whatever. You can check out the Big Rig truck. One cool thing about this map is that there are these vultures. So I never ever noticed this when I played the game as a kid, but when I was working on this renderer, I noticed that there's actually on these rocks, there's these vultures. And I never noticed this. I don't know how I never noticed this. I guess going through, you just kind of think it's rocks or something, but I never actually noticed this in game. But these vultures are kind of everywhere. Coming up here into the tumbleweed shortcut. Again, kind of cool to be able to like come to these corners and be like, oh, well, what's out here? And then I can actually like come check it out. Like the fact that there's this little area right here that like no one has ever seen this before who's played this game. Like no one's ever seen around this rock here. It's kind of cool. And coming up here, it's kind of fun to fly through these fly through the shortcut with these trains and like, check out what's beyond it. Yeah, that's I think about it for this map of the cool stuff. Like for example, like look at that. I never noticed that actually. This is the first time I'm seeing that, but apparently if you come here in the map and look off to the right, you'll be able to see this area where there's a tunnel. And maybe you've driven past that and you've thought, wow, where does that tunnel go? Well, now you can have those answers finally. 25 years after the game is released, we can see it's just we can come up to this tunnel and just check it out. It doesn't really go anywhere. They literally just modeled it to just give the appearance of like this, deep world, when in reality it's just, I don't know, just an illusion. Kind of fun to look at though. Coming back around here, we get to these oil refineries again, and we're back kind of where we started. But how fun is it to be able to just check this out? All right, we're almost done. Let's go to Surf and Turf. Actually, let's start with Sunburn, because I think Sunburn is kind of the simpler version of these kind of beachside maps. One cool thing about Sunburn is like we got this beautiful sky. If we look at it from afar, it's just a really cool perspective here of this map. But if we come back in, some cool things about this map, some things of note, is that there's a lot of like stuff underground. Like there's a lot of these like barriers and stuff that are like underground. I don't know if that was me making a mistake or if it's actually there in the game, but I imagine like these are mistakes, right? Because why would a barrier be up here and be pointing to go a direction? That's wrong. But yeah, I think I'm getting a little bit tired of talking. It's been 54 minutes already, but yeah, this is a really fun map to explore. You know, you've got like a pool here. You've got this kind of building that you can kind of crash through and run over all the furniture, some posters that I can't really tell what they're of. But yeah, like some things like you just notice is that like, I guess it's perspective, but like there's just nothing beyond here, you know, and you just don't notice this in the game. Coming along here, we enter this kind of outside part of the map. It kind of loops around the, you know, nature side of things and snakes back around into the city. I don't know. I never found anything interesting out here, but maybe you guys can. Oh, one cool thing to talk about that I learned when I was making this render is like, how do you make like such trees and such bushes look like this? Like, how do they do this? Well, the answer is kind of very simple. If I turn off textures here, the illusion is very clear kind of what's going on here. We can see the bushes are nothing more than just like this kind of crisscrossed. You've got like 4 squares by 4 squares that make this kind of, you know, crisscross pattern. And when you apply a texture to it, and when that texture has transparency, it just creates a bush. Like, it's that simple. And the same thing with trees. Like, you turn off the textures for the trees. If we could find a darker tree, maybe it would be easier to illustrate the geometry. Yeah, like this one right here. The tree is just literally, you know, the trunk is just some polygons, and the leaves are just some mishmash of squares. But when you apply a texture to those squares that has transparency, it just looks beautiful. It just looks like a tree. And like the illusion is kind of broken when you look at it from above. You can kind of see how obvious this is being rendered. But the thing is in the game, you're just not looking at it from above, you're looking at it from the side. So it creates this kind of really cool visual effect for cheap, right? It doesn't cost much to render, you know, a few squares. So that's kind of a fun thing that I learned about how PS2 graphics work when I was working on this. Coming back into the city, these power lines to nowhere, kind of fun detail. Yeah, the city itself, kind of not much going on, you know, it's normal. You just drive through it, looks just like the game. Some kind of storefronts that might be interesting to explore. I haven't given this too much thought before. I haven't really explored every nook and cranny of this area as I was designing this, but maybe one day I'll come back through and look at all this. But as far as today, I've talked so much that I'm kind of getting tired of talking. So again, you can kind of see how cheap the illusion is in the game, like where if you were to come to this point in the game and just turn right, you can see that like there's just nothing there. And I wonder, I don't know, I have to verify this in the game, but out here we can see that one of those signs all the way out there under the building, I wonder if it's visible in the game. I'll have to check on that. I'm actually curious about that. I'm going to check after this video. But you can see, certainly in the game, if you turn to the right here, there's just nothing. Like, they just never expected you to just check out the map. They always expected you to just vroom right past and, you know, keep going straight ahead. So that's Sunburn. Fun little map to explore. A lot of interesting stuff hiding underground here. Kind of an odd map. All right, that takes us to Surf and Turf. And now Surf and Turf has the same kind of general layout where you kind of snake around the city and come back and end up at the beach. But Surf and Turf has a lot of interesting stuff. It has that kind of city skyline in the background, a darker, kind of cloudier texture. One kind of interesting thing that I found when I was developing this is that when you come over here, let me know if you notice it, But under this kind of building here, we've got like this weird texture. Like the underside of the building is not textured right. And I was like, what is going on here? And apparently it's like, if I turn off vertex colors, let's turn off vertex colors. We can see it's just like this textured palm tree repeated under this building. So when I was developing this and I saw that, I thought, there's no way that like that's not a mistake that I made. But if you come here in the actual game, you'll notice that this is how it is modeled in the actual game. So it's just a funny oversight. But again, we can come check out this pier now, something you would never be able to do before. And we can check out what's above this highway. There's just so much cool stuff you can do when you can break the camera bounds. We can come out here. One kind of interesting thing here that I noticed when I was looking at the polygon, the drivable polygons, is that, you know, we can see drivable parts of the map. Actually, the game considers this part out here drivable. It's just that you can never get out here because there's a fence here. There's a collision there, but that was something I found interesting. Coming over here, back into the city. Yeah, nothing too crazy, honestly. It is fun to come through this particular area, like, and check out the theater, check out all these posters, and there's like this you know, these textured movie posters that feature the developers' names. I know Laurent was one of the programmers. He's a French guy. Don't know any of these people, but I recognize the names from the credits and researching the developers. Then we come out here to this kind of area, which is kind of cool. Like, you can see how they use vertex coloring to make this kind of sand dune effect, right? To create this kind of like wavy sand dune effect in the texture that would otherwise be flat. So coming back into the city, you know, you can check out all these tables, check out what's beyond here. Not much of anything. Let's get a shot of the whole city like this. This mall area, you could come over here. You could check out this t-shirt shack. See what's going on here. Check out the various designs. Again, you know, explore this at your leisure once it gets up on Noclip. This building, I think, is actually supposed to be reflective, but I'm not handling that correctly. Luckily, there's not many reflective surfaces in this game, and that, you know, it looks pretty good as it is. Again, there's all kinds of stuff to explore here. I haven't explored this map too in depth, but I don't particularly like this map very much, but it is interesting. So with that being said, we've officially kind of done a flyover of every map in the game. Again, Touch and Go, I think, is my favorite. It's just so cool to look at this map. I will eventually do some kind of technical breakdown of maybe how, like a blog post or video about how I did this. One cool thing to wrap this up. Here's that cube again. You can actually see this cube from the map if you come to this point. Although it doesn't quite look like this, it'll render kind of glitchy in the game. You can actually see this, so I thought that was kind of fun. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope this is kind of a cool thing to see this game in a new perspective. For fans of the game that still speedrun it. I know a lot of people in Indonesia, for some random reason, play this game a lot. So I hope that if you're a Rumble Racing fan, this video has been entertaining, and that hopefully they accept my pull request on Noclip and you can check this out for yourself. But thanks for watching.